My name is Andrea Ostergaard. Welcome to the 2026 Call for Speakers webinar. I am the Events and Partnership Director for Mpact. I do want to introduce my other panelists today. We have Kammy Horne, the CEO of Mpact, Georg, Josi, who's a partner at DIALOG in Edmonton and a longtime National Steering Committee member for Mpact, and Breen Masciotra, who's the executive director of Mobilify in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, also a longtime National Steering Committee member. So today, we will cover sort of the overview of the process from the call for speakers all the way through to the conference. We also plan to understand what the National Steering Committee members are looking for when they are curating and selecting conference sessions. I want to introduce Kammy Horne, our CEO, and again, feel free to add questions and comments into the Q&A and the chat. So welcome, Kammy.
Well, thanks, Andrea, and hello, everyone. It's nice to see so many people joining us today. Super exciting. As many of you know, we are Mpact, Mobility, Community, Possibility, and we were rebranded in 2022 from what we were formerly known as Railvolution. And last year, we celebrated 30 years of our organization. And over that 30 years, we have shaped the vision for transit-oriented communities. We are looking to expand our impact and move towards the future to consider even more types of mobility and projects in all communities and in your communities. And so we are looking at the creative ways in which cities are evolving using on-demand services, in addition to fixed route transit, innovative land use policy changes, affordable housing solutions, and other ideas that bring communities together to tackle the biggest challenges to affordability, many that fall into the realm of transportation costs. And you'll hear Breen talk about the tracks in just a little bit. And so we convene and support leaders, practitioners, and advocates working on transit, connected mobility options, land use and transit, and development. And we are dedicated to engaging with the community to define what's possible and sharing practical, proven ways to get there. So we offer Mpact, our Transit Plus Community Conference. So that's our big event every year. We also have our Impact Lab, which is focused on capacity building and leadership development in communities across the U.S. And then we also have our Impact Voices, our learning, fresh ideas from our network, and all of our social media and our webinars like today. We're also on social at Mpact Mobility and our website, impactmobility.org. And you can find out more about all three of these programs on our social. So I'm going to jump in and talk just a little bit briefly about our values. We are a very, very different type of convening and a different type of conference. Many people say it's their favorite conference, and I think that is really part of the creativity that they feel when they're in the space, and that is all about the presentations and the collaboration that happens in all of the different sessions. Again, you'll hear a little bit more about that today. But our sessions should really emphasize, what is the impact and what were the results of whatever it is that we're discussing in that particular session. Also, we are very focused on inclusivity. And when you see the call for speakers, and you're going to hear about it today, I would encourage everyone to reach out as you can and think about maybe others that could join these conversations, but that may not see this opportunity in their regular channels or their regular websites that they visit. So, and that's very important to us, to be inclusive, to reach out and have diverse audience with diverse backgrounds. It's super, super important, and it's what makes this conference very, very special. Collaboration and partnership, innovation. I mentioned the on-demand transit and other innovations in our spaces, both on the public transportation side and then in the community development side. And also quality. Quality is super important. And we do, after the selection of the speakers, offer opportunities to support development of sessions as needed along the way. So And I think that I am handing this over to
Me.
Georg.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Kammy.
thank you.
And yeah, I see lots of um, uh, callers here from the United States, but also some from Canada. So really exciting. Um, the call for speakers is obviously it's open right now. We'll close on February 20th, and then what happens with the proposals that you send in. So what happens is that each proposal will be reviewed by National Steering Committee members. So what's the National Steering Committee? Maybe first, it's a group, an amalgamation of experts within the transit community, really diverse group coming from across the US and Canada, from transit agencies, consultants, non-for-profits. We're over 60 that are in the group. Obviously, not all 60 will review every single proposal. It will be split down into groups, those reviews. But it's within the National Steering Committee that we will then start to pull together panels. So all the sessions are panels that we have at Mpact. So there's no real, let's say, just standalone presentations. So please keep that in mind. The National Steering Committee, we met first time this year, just last week in Charlotte, and we had really good conversations on what maybe something special about the conference in Toronto, and I'll get there right away. We meet 3 times before the conference. So the first time is just to set the stage. The second is basically to review the proposals, start pulling together panels, and then the third time, which is in summer, is to finalize those panels. This year, we're going to be in Toronto, back into Canada. Really excited to do that. We're in Vancouver in 2019. It was a great success. So we really hope we can duplicate that in Toronto. There's lots going on in terms of transit. There's many expansions and major expansions, be it subway, be it LRT, new lines that have opened. So it's exciting time. There's also going to be the Toronto International Film Festival going on at the same time. So book your rooms early for good rates, but it's really going to be exciting to do that all together. Maybe a little bit on the tips and topics for 2026. The next slide on there. Obviously, very much aligned with the values that Kammy just presented. And what is very important to the reviewers, to the National Steering Committee, is that your submissions have relatable stories that have lessons learned, are really important. We want to really learn from others as well. What can we do better? What has worked? It'd be great if you could think about, especially ones out of the United States. What about Canada? Does what I'm doing here, could that apply maybe even internationally? We're going to have most likely quite a bit of content from Toronto as well. So how could your topic weave in with others? Because again, we're gonna put together panels, and it's gotta weave in with other things. As Kammy mentioned, innovation is huge for us. Be it actually on what you're doing, but even how you're presenting. Maybe you have great ideas how to present, so that'd be great too. And then obviously cities that have transit expansion are always, that's what many of the attendees, they want to hear. What is happening? How do you do it? Do you do it differently? And so that'd be great topics as well. And Breen actually has way more details now in terms of the what's in the different work groups.
Thanks, Georg. You just received a really great explanation of the kinds of things we're looking for. To just drill down on that a little bit, in the last couple of years, the National Steering Committee has been thinking about the way that we frame the topics that we focus on in terms of solutions. That is a reflection of our interest and the sort of Mpact history of looking at the real world applications of the ideas that we're discussing, not theoretical, but how things have been applied in practice. So that might be a little messy. It might mean that things didn't go entirely according to plan, but those are the things that have value to other practitioners. And this is really entirely about peer learning. So when we think about the types of solutions that we are interested in hearing from you all about, they fall into kind of 5 baskets of solutions. I'm going to run through those with you. First is, how are you solving for funding gaps? And that funding gaps may fall across a number of different ways of thinking about it. It might be transit operations funding gaps. It might be transit-oriented development funding gaps. It might be about how you get large capital projects off the ground. And then within those, different ways of thinking about funding, it includes a number of different kinds of tools. And we want to hear about those different tools and the different, so like policy tools, partnerships, all those things that help to close gaps in real world projects. The next basket of things is, how are you solving for quality of life issues? And traditionally, quality of life set of things has included resiliency, disaster preparedness, displacement, quality of life considerations in procurement practices, in design, how transit agencies interact with people who are unhoused, or the overall, thinking about the overall rider experience and safety in the context of a diverse ridership. But this year it also includes some items that we previously thought of as strictly access and mobility, including placemaking, the street design, and first last mile connections. So we're thinking about how to think more broadly about some of those mobility and access issues. And speaking of mobility and access, the sort of core of that topic is really about transportation operations in a large way. It might have to do with transit operations, major capital projects for transit, congestion management, things like microtransit, micromobility, alternative fuels. So those topics are all kind of in this access and mobility basket. Next, 4 out of 5 we're on here, is, how are you building effective engagement, communications, and partnerships? So the people side of this work specifically. It might, community engagement, but also comms in general, government relations, campaigns, whether those are marketing campaigns or whether those are, ballot initiative type campaigns. So all of that, engaging youth, all those kinds of creative human side of the work falls into this track 4 area. And then last but not least, the track where I got my start is, how are you using transit-oriented development to build complete communities? So everything TOD related tends to fall into this category. It can include corridor planning, So, the land use planning side that complements a major transit investment, thinking about zoning reform, thinking about parking, thinking about affordable and workforce housing, all of those places where you're really thinking about the land use interaction with the transportation is track 5. And then extra fun is the PK Slam. If you haven't been to the event before, to the conference before, this is an evening event that consists of the traditional Pechacucha style presentations. It's really fun. It tends to be funny. People really put a lot of thought into it, and it really is a very engaging and fun thing to participate in. I've done it twice, and to watch. So we usually have about 10 speakers. It's not huge, but if you want to challenge yourself, or you have a topic that you think you really want to dig into specifically, you want to explore, and or you have a kind of a hot take that you want to share, this is a great way to do that. So we have talked as a national steering committee about, just last week actually, about what are the kind of topics that we see emerging right now that we would love to see proposals about. And those include successful fare box stories, managing construction costs, the battle for streets and curbs. So you can read the list here, but I think what we're seeing is sort of in a lot of cases, I think I would say, there are definitely financial challenges that are emerging in a lot of different ways for agencies and cities around transportation. That's something that we want to explore. There are changes to the way people are moving and where they're moving and when they're doing that, and what are the systemic responses that we're having to that. And that comes in terms of transit service, street design, a number of things. And then, of course, there's sort of the larger context and how that might be impacting how we engage with folks, whether that's the suburbanization of poverty or thinking about audience such as First Nations and young people. So take a look at this list. If something jumps out at you, you've got a great story, we'd really love to hear it. And is this one me too? It is me too. I'm so sorry. I got it. So ultimately, kind of getting back to where I started with, we want to understand a real world narrative and the positive and potentially the negative that were learned from that. And this is a way of thinking about that to help kind of provoke your thinking. Did you do something that was successful because of a really unique partnership, or a new way of engaging people, or a way that transit was a linchpin in a larger project, in a larger story? Do you use a new kind of funding tool or approach? I mean, those kind of tell us what makes your work unique, what makes it a good way for other folks to learn how to be creative and how to improve the work that they're doing. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to the Mpact staff.
Great. Thank you so much, Breen. I'm going to talk just really quick because I want to get to questions about how to submit your proposal. So you can access everything on our website. I did mention the resources below. That also has a link to our website. That is where you would submit your proposal. We have a worksheet, and I very, very much recommend that you use that worksheet, or be sure to add any and all of your question answers to somewhere like a Word document or notes, or somewhere where you could copy and paste them into our form there, because the form does time out. So make sure that you're backing up your work. It's just a tip that I think I always get a handful of issues with each year. Be sure that you and the proposed speakers, if you have more than yourself, can attend in person. We don't plan on virtual speakers at this time. And if you are selected to speak, you are offered the day you speak to attend the conference for free, or the conference registration at its price. All of that information is on our website. And I think also just want to reiterate what Georg said about proposals generally being combined. So if you submit a story, lots of times it will be combined and curated with other similar stories to accomplish a sort of higher, more robust session concept. Go ahead. Yep. This is the other, on our form, adding additional speakers. There's two places that people get confused about. Just keep in mind, when you're doing your form, this space right here circled, it's really small here, but it says add plus, add another speaker. You're going to put your speakers there. There is a space called secondary contact at the very bottom of the form, and that's for an assistant or a marketing person or whoever would like to also be CC'd on their submittal. So just be sure to make that distinction. We've had some issues with that. And then timeline, like Georg said, we meet 3 times. We're going to be closing the call on February 20th, and we will be reviewing and setting up proposals in mid-March. Then we will take April and May to sort of reach out and fine tune and get all those speakers sort of starting to confirm. And we finalize everything in June, very early June. We plan to have session descriptions, titles, everything ready to sort of start our process internally by June 12th. So things will move pretty quickly, and then you will have time to work on your proposals and that up until the conference. So here's my contact information. Please feel free to reach out, and we'll try to do some questions right now with the last few minutes that we have.
I can probably jump.
Yeah, go ahead, Kammy.
Yeah, I've been reading those, and
yeah, perfect.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Thanks to everybody. But there's one question here that says, can a proposal be for a project currently in process, or does it have to be fully complete? It doesn't. I mean, projects take a long time, but there's different wins in different parts of project development. So as long as something can be expressed that has an outcome and sort of a learnable piece of that, I think that could result in a great proposal. But we definitely want to see some impacts discussed. Not just things that might be kind of being developed. So that's how I would answer that. And the next question goes to our NSC members, which is, can you say a little bit about what has made proposals stand out in good and bad ways in recent years? So Georg and Breen, if you want to say a couple things about that.
Sure, yeah, that's a very good question. So in good ways, it's the storytelling. It's something tangible. That is always that's well received. It's something newer, innovative. If things that are maybe 10 years old, we heard about for a long time, not so well received. If it's a panel that you're submitting yourself, so more than one speaker, its diversity is hugely important in there. It could be geography, background, and all of that, so that it actually is all encompassing, or as much encompasses as much as possible. And what doesn't go over well is if it looks like an advertisement or a commercial, whatever it is. That's something that generally those go on the left hand pile.
Yeah, I'll second that and just add that hold on, let me find my thought. Add that we're at the session scale, we're almost always trying to understand, to create a well-rounded understanding of a particular topic or challenge. And so that tends to, then we find ourselves trying to bring in usually different perspectives on that issue that will strengthen the audience's understanding of that issue. So that is where the diversity that Georg alluded to comes into play, that we don't want everybody from the same city who worked on the same project, because we want to understand that topic. How did they do it one place? How did they do it another place? How are those different and the same? And what can we take away from that to a place where we haven't done it yet?
I just want to jump in and make sure with our team. The question was, is there a session limit per organization? I believe our session limit is 2 per person. So that doesn't really limit the organization. It's just per submitter. So. Are there any other questions that we're seeing out there?
There's one, are there topics, perspectives you don't get to see often enough? I think the one thing is maybe where we'd like to see a bit more is really the interaction between different, let's call them entities, organizations, and how we work together. That's very interesting, because that's where I think with especially TOD, TOC, there's some struggles, and that's across the US and Canada. And there's probably a few other things. Again, innovative approaches. If you have anything that is innovative, that we really get to hear that and can talk about it. I think that is one thing. We are also focused a little bit on, and that's working together, but it's overbuilt and where stations are interacting very closely with the surroundings. Design is maybe something that gets a little bit missed. So if you have really good design and placemaking examples, I think those would be very valuable.
Well, thank you so much to everyone who's joined today, and to our panelists. We really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to all of the submissions. And again, please reach out if you have any additional questions. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in Toronto.